politics of this world are complicated, particularly with mages constantly interfering. But who are the players of this dangerous game, and what moves have they done so far? The continent is split into two main parts, the first in the north being split into 18 sections, known as the Northern Kingdoms. Each kingdom has its own king, who creates his own laws and tracks their laws separately. This results in many wars between the various kings and queens, mainly over land ownership. To the south is Nilfgaard, the largest kingdom of the continent, ruled by Emperor Emir var Emrys, otherwise known as Junie. The empire utilises its vast armies to storm kingdom after kingdom, giving the existing monarchy a simple choice: to join the empire willingly or to be invaded and killed. If the king or queen willingly joins the empire, they are allowed to keep the throne of their province, being subject only to the emperor himself. There have been 3 wars between the north and south, all started by the Nilfgaardian Empire. In the first war, Nilfgaard marched over the Amel Mountains, killing everything in their path, and eventually arrived in Cintra, where Queen Calanthe rules. The Nilfgaardian Empire was far too vast for Cintra to defend alone, and however bravely they fought, they were defeated, and Cintra became part of the mighty empire. Cintra's peasantry, terrified of the thought of becoming Nilfgaardian, killed themselves, and within 4 days, Cintra belonged to the emperor. These 4 days allowed King Foltest of Temeria to gather his troops and 22 mages from around the northern kingdoms into Sodden. The Battle of Sodden Hill was a brutal affair, but the northern kingdoms managed to push back the Nilfgaardian Empire. They defeated the Empire's army, however Sodden was split into Upper Sodden, belonging to the Empire, and Lower Sodden, which joined the Kingdom of Temeria. In the following brief window of peace, the Empire planned the next step in his invasion. Non-human races in the northern kingdoms are treated as second-class citizens, looked down upon, and treated with great mistrust, especially the elves. Junie speaks to the elves, telling them that if they help the invasion, whole provinces will be given to the elves, free of mistreatment. Many of the younger elves believe this and start rebel units, calling themselves the Scoia'tael, more commonly known as the Squirrels. The Squirrels start attacking the Northern Kingdom trade routes, weakening their armies and slowing supplies. Junie also bribes many powerful mages of the Northern Kingdom, leading to the Thaned coup. Finally, the Emperor has King Vizimir of Redania assassinated. The Nilfgaardian Empire mobilises at this time of weakness and crosses the Yaruka Bridge, taking control of the Dol Angra River, an invaluable trade route for various northern kingdoms, and the Second War begins. The Empire starts the invasion by taking Lyria and Rivia, and the ruling Queen Meve goes into hiding. The Empire's march continues until he has invaded the city of Vengerberg and on towards King Demavand's lands, Aedowin. King Everil of Varden fears the might of this army and betrays the northern kingdoms and swears fealty to the Emperor. At this stage, King Foltest manages to make a truce with the Emperor, while stationing his Temerian troops in the fort of Hague. Aedern's armies march through the Makam Mountains and into Temeria for backup. Just 16 days after the truce,
Bruges attacked from 3 sides.
Nilfgaardian troops come from Cintra in the south, Verdun attacks from the west, and Squirrel units attack from the north. Using this as a distraction, Queen Meve gathers any surviving troops she can find and leads a guerrilla fight against the Empire in Angren. She rescues many prisoners of war and manages to quickly gather supplies and extra troops. Using these soldiers, Maeve passes through Upper Sodden, stopping only when they reach Yeruka Bridge. With Geralt's help, she recaptures Lyria's flank and destroys the bridge to delay Nilfgaardian supplies, and promptly goes back into hiding. After taking Bruges, the Nilfgaardian Empire push into the south of Temeria and attack the fortress Maribor. But with the Empire's forces being stretched so thin, supplies slowed, and winter coming, Junior decides to pull back his armies into Sodden and await the spring. Once spring came, he planned to attack Temeria on all possible fronts, the north, east and west. However, this is where the Emperor's plans started to fall apart. When spring comes, the Empire moves on Temeria, but the eastern and western armies never arrive due to civil war, meaning the central army is alone in its attack. The civil war gives courage to the united northern armies, and they meet the Empire head-on in Brenna. This was the turning point in the war. Slowly but surely, Nilfgaardian forces are pushed back and start losing on all fronts. After a while, the Emperor sees that defeat is inevitable, and so negotiations are held between all of the kingdoms involved in the war, and peace is eventually reached. Again, however, this peace does not last. Nilfgaard hires the witcher Letho to slay all current rulers, and he succeeds in murdering Foltest and Emmervand. The Empire invades the weakened Temeria, capturing Aedirn as well. King Radovid, the new king of Redania, gains control of the neighbouring kingdom Kedawin to make one strong army instead of two weaker ones. An indecisive battle in Valen between the last two kingdoms leaves the Third War at a stalemate, with Juni seated in Vizima and Radovid in Oxenfurt. The stalemate has caused all eyes to turn on Novigrad, a large free city with men, ships and supplies at their disposal. These extra supplies will be enough to turn the tide of war. However, invasion is out of the question due to a loss of life neither side can afford, and so the stalemate continues.